athletes participating in activism. It's nothing new in the United States. Over the years, there have been numerous high-profile demonstrations in sports, from Colin Kaepernick kneeling during the national anthem to the NBA printing Black Lives Matter on its basketball courts during last year's bubble. But are those kinds of demonstrations going to be allowed at the Tokyo Olympics that start in just a few weeks? Hey everyone, I'm Ariane Till with this week's episode of our fact-checking show, Verify. This episode is all about the Olympics. Well, specifically protesting at the Olympics. And while this headband and these glasses aren't technically banned, they should be. But seriously, there's a long history of demonstrations on the world's biggest sports stage, but many people don't know the rules. What's allowed? What isn't? Well, we're gonna take the torch on this one and clear it all up. A claim we've seen repeatedly made on Facebook says, quote, Japan has banned BLM apparel from the Olympics. No one can kneel/raise fists during the anthems. Multiple posts with this claim have been shared more than 50,000 times. So let's verify. Did Japan ban Black Lives Matter apparel and kneeling during the anthems? The answer is no. It's not Japan who set these rules, but the International Olympic Committee, commonly known as the IOC. Our sources for this are the IOC itself and Team USA. The Olympics, including this summer's games in Tokyo, are governed by the Olympic Charter. It's a set of rules and guidelines that everyone in the games, from host countries to athletes and even fans, agree to follow within the Olympic venue. The social media posts appear to reference Rule 50 of the Charter. It says, quote, no kind of demonstration or political, religious, or racial propaganda is permitted in any Olympic sites, venues, or other areas. Remember Rule 50 because we're going to talk about it a lot. The rule not only applies to what athletes say, but what they wear, such as Black Lives Matter apparel. It also bans hand gestures and kneeling. On its website, Team USA recognizes Rule 50 and provides guidelines for American athletes who qualify for the Olympics. Earlier this month, the IOC relaxed some of its guidelines related to Rule 50 for the Tokyo Olympics, giving athletes more opportunities to express themselves. The most notable change is that athletes can express their views on the field of play prior to the start of competition. So I can wear this? Unfortunately, yes, but once the competition starts, demonstrations must end under Rule 50. Demonstrations are also banned in the Olympic Village and during official ceremonies, such as medal ceremonies when national anthems are played. Athletes could be penalized for violating Rule 50. The IOC says it will take action on a case-by-case basis. So while we can verify that Black Lives Matter apparel and kneeling are banned during the anthems at the Olympics, it's not Japan who set the rules, nor is in charge of enforcing them. It's the IOC. This is certainly not the first time the issue of protesting has come up during the Olympic Games. Let's take a walk back in history to another well-known demonstration by athletes. Does this image ring a bell? Well, the two men raising their fists are U.S. track athletes Tommie Smith and John Carlos. It was during the 1968 Olympics in Mexico. The two men symbolically criticized the country's treatment of Black Americans with their clothes. Shoeless to protest poverty, a scarf and beads to honor victims of lynching, and black gloves to symbolize strength and unity. Then, during the anthem, they raised their fist in protest, a moment captured in those iconic photos. But their demonstrations did not go over well with the IOC, which, as you know, has really strict guidelines on political expression. Those guidelines date all the way back to 1955. Tommie Smith and John Carlos were suspended and sent home following their demonstration. But the powerful image of the two men holding up their fists, well, it continues to capture people's attention and interest 53 years later. Data from Google Trends shows there's been a spike in interest as the Tokyo Olympics have gotten closer. Recently, another demonstration caught the attention of the country. You've probably seen this picture on social media. It's of hammer thrower Gwen Berry on the podium after qualifying for the Olympics. As the national anthem was played, Berry turned away from the American flag and put a shirt that said activist athlete over her head. So let's verify. Did Berry break any rules by demonstrating during the national anthem? Given how much we've talked about Rule 50, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, it's obvious that she broke Rule 50. But in actuality, she didn't. So let's walk through why. It's all about who is overseeing the event and making the rules. Berry was competing in the U.S. Olympic trials. That means the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee, not the International Olympic Committee, sets the rules. The U.S. Olympic Committee previously instituted a ban on protests similar to Rule 50. In fact, in 2019, Berry was put on probation for 12 months by the U.S. Olympic Committee after she raised her fist during the national anthem at the Pan American Games. But in December of last year, the U.S. Olympic Committee, they decided to change their rules. The new rules said Team USA athletes would not be sanctioned at the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic trials for engaging in racial and social justice demonstrations. So we can verify, no, Berry did not violate any rules by turning away from the flag during the national anthem. However, Rule 50 is in effect in Tokyo because the International Olympic Committee is in charge. So if Berry wins a medal and demonstrates in a similar way during that ceremony, she could be penalized. All right, we've reached the finish line on this week's episode. I'm Ariane Till, and I'll catch you next week on another episode of Verify. Have a question for our team? Shoot us a text at 202-410-8808. You can also subscribe to our daily newsletter at verifythis.com and follow us on social media at VerifyThis. Go Team USA!